1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Episode 57 DFE March 12, 2025. Tesla and U.S. products boycotted and Ukraine ceasefire negotiations. In episode 57 DFE 1, United States Trump calls Tesla boycott illegal and says he is buying a Tesla vehicle to support Musk. 2 Canadian and European boycotts of Tesla and other U.S. items. 3 European Union retaliatory tariffs to begin April 1st, 2025. 4 Ukraine ceasefire negotiations. Putin may well stick to previous demands over Ukrainian elections and a rejection of European peacekeeping forces. RAWSEP View negotiations may start between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine will be going into negotiations, having demonstrated its firepower and range of its weapons recently. 4B Ukraine aid from the U.S. Reinstated soldiers of the Ukraine 5th Brigade hold a poster thanking the U.S. for its support at the front line near Toretsk Donetsk region on Tuesday. RAWSEP View Ukraine has had U.S. support reinstated ahead of negotiations with Russia. 5 Russia and the United States A pact between two men is emerging. A Trump Putin pact is emerging, and Europe is its target. The U.S. betrayal of Ukraine is the rehearsal for a grander bargain with Moscow and an assault on continental solidarity in Europe. RAWSEP View This is an opinion piece below, but RAWSEP believes the depiction of the personal motivations of Trump may be accurate. It is hard for RAWSEP to believe that the majority of Americans share those Trumpian types of motivations. Main content. 1. United States Trump calls Tesla boycott illegal and says he is buying a Tesla vehicle to support Musk standing in the driveway of the White House with Tesla vehicles. Trump said he would label violence against the Tesla showrooms as domestic terrorism. RAWSEP View, like stopping indoor residential wood burning, more use of electric vehicles will stop some PM 2.5 emissions that harm human health and stop some PM 2.5 emissions that contribute to climate change. However, the monopoly of Tesla electric vehicles should end, and the alternative electric vehicle brands now available in 2025 should be bought instead. Electric car charging stations should be built which are not exclusively designed for Tesla vehicles or not exclusively designated for Tesla vehicles. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c. Free nonprofit organization The Guardian. March 11, 2025. Trump said he is buying a brand new Tesla and blamed radical left lunatics for illegally boycotting the Musk electric vehicle company. The announcement came a day after Tesla suffered its worst share price fall in nearly 5 years. Later, the president also said he would label violence against Tesla showrooms as domestic terrorism. Trump was responding to a question during a Tuesday press conference in which a reporter said, "Talk to us about some of the violence that has been going on around the country at Tesla dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists. I will do that. I will do that." Trump said, "I am going to put a stop to it because they are harming a great American company." Trump spoke on the White House driveway alongside Musk and the young son of Musk. Several Tesla vehicles were parked in the driveway for Trump to pick which vehicle to buy. In August 2024, a podcaster gifted Trump a Cybertruck. On March 11, 2025, Tuesday, Trump selected a red Model S, which he said he would pay for by check. Elon Musk is putting it on the line in order to help our nation, and he is doing a fantastic job. But the radical left lunatics, as they often do, are trying to illegally and collusively boycott Tesla, one of the great automakers in the world, and the baby of Elon, in order to attack and do harm to Elon and everything he stands for. Trump posted on Truth Social on Tuesday morning. During the press conference, Trump reiterated these statements, saying, "We already know who some of them are. We are going to catch them, and they are bad guys." The shares of Tesla fell sharply on Monday as markets reacted to The threat of a recession and the Trump tariff plans. The slide of Tesla came amid widespread protests over the billionaire because of the Musk influence in the federal government at Tesla dealerships is a boycott campaign. Tesla car owners are selling their Tesla vehicles and activists are pushing members of the public to sell Tesla shares. A Tesla car in a dumpster is shown covered in anti-Nazi graffiti, and Musk must go I am. Selling the Nazi mobile Tesla owners offload vehicles after the Musk fascist-style salutes. Polls have shown public support for Doge is mixed to unfavorable, with the vast majority of Democratic voters polling that Musk has too much power. 2 Canadian and European boycotts of Tesla and other U.S. items from Canada to Europe. A movement to boycott U.S. goods is spreading. Tesla sales are falling and apps and online groups are springing up to help consumers choose non-U.S. items. RAWSEP View the boycotts in Canada and Europe are reactions to Musk attempting to interfere in Canadian, United Kingdom, and European Union politics. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, March 12, 2025. The renowned German classical violinist described his horror at the authoritarian policies of Trump and the response of U.S. elites to the American growing democratic crisis. I cannot just go and play a tour of beautiful concerts. A growing international move to boycott the U.S. is spreading from Scandinavia to Canada to the UK and beyond as consumers turn against U.S. goods. Most prominent boycotters are European car buyers of them. Teslas produced by Elon Musk, now a prominent figure in the Trump administration as the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, a special group created by Trump that has contributed to the precipitous declines in the Tesla share price. About 15% of its value was wiped out on Monday alone. There has also been a Canadian consumer boycott in response to trade tariffs, and the Trump calls for Canada to become the 51st state of America. The past week has seen daily reports of cultural boycotts and disinvestment. Protesters hold placards that say no to Tesla and nobody voted for Elon Musk. A Boysh Doge in Canada apps have emerged with names such as by Beaver Maple Scan, and is this Canadian to allow shoppers to scan QR barcodes and reject U.S. produce from alcohol to pizza toppings. The number of Canadians taking road trips to the U.S. representing the majority of Canadians who normally visit dropped by 23% compared with February 2024. In Sweden, 40,000 users have joined a Facebook group calling for a boycott of U.S. companies, ironically including Facebook itself, which features alternatives to U.S. consumer products. In Denmark, where there has been widespread anger over the Trump threat to bring the autonomous territory of Greenland under U.S. control, the largest Danish grocery company said it will tag European-made goods with a black star to allow consumers to choose them over products made in the U.S. The largest oil bunkering operation in Norway announced a boycott of its supplying of fuel to U.S. Navy ships. Trump this week has commented on the issue for the first time, bemoaning the impact of the Tesla customer boycott and demonstrations, and it is likely to spread further. Still, an organizer of the Stop Trump coalition in the UK is seeing rapidly increasing interest in the issue. Already across Europe, we are seeing sales of Tesla falling off a cliff because Musk encapsulates so much of the problem with the Trump administration, both its culture of horrible racism and the economic side. 3 European Union retaliatory tariffs to begin April 1, 2025. The EU retaliates against Trump tariffs with €26 billion countermeasures. Von der Leyen hits back at unjustified trade restrictions after U.S. metals levies come into force. RAWSEP View the European Union tariffs are a measured response to the Trump tariffs. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, March 12, 2025. The EU has announced it will impose trade countermeasures on €26 billion, £22 billion worth of U.S. goods in retaliation after the Trump tariffs on steel and aluminium imports, escalating a global trade war. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, called the 25% U.S. levies on global imports of the metals unjustified trade restrictions after they came into force at 4 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time GMT on Wednesday, March 12, 2025. We deeply regret this measure, von der Leyen said in a statement as Brussels announced it would be launching a series of countermeasures on April 1, 2025. The European Union must act to protect consumers and business, she added. The Commission said it would be targeting industrial products in response, including steel and aluminium, as well as household tools, plastics, and wooden goods. In addition, the EU measures will affect some U.S. agricultural products such as poultry, beef, some seafood, nuts, eggs, dairy, sugar, and vegetables, provided they are approved by member states. The retaliatory measures will also entail Brussels reimposing the tariffs on U.S. goods, including bourbon whiskey, jeans, and Harley-Davidson motorbikes that it introduced during the first Trump term. We will always remain open to negotiation. We firmly believe that in a world fraught with geopolitical and economic uncertainties, it is not in our common interest to burden our economies with tariffs, von der Leyen said. Keir Starmer attends the annual Commonwealth Day service of celebration at Westminster. Abby Starmer will avoid immediate counter tariffs if Trump puts levies on UK steel. The French European Affairs Minister Benjamin Haddad said on Wednesday that the EU could go further in its response to the US tariffs. The measures are proportionate, Haddad said. If it came to a situation where we had to go further, digital services or intellectual property could be included. He said Britain would not issue its own immediate measures in response to the US tariffs, but was going to reserve our right to retaliate, a UK minister said. For a Ukraine ceasefire negotiations, Putin may well stick to previous demands over Ukrainian elections and a rejection of European peacekeeping forces. RAWSEP View negotiations may start between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine will be going into negotiations having demonstrated its firepower and range of its weapons recently. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, March 12, 2025. Suddenly the ball is in the Russian court. The flow of U.S. intelligence and military aid to Ukraine is to resume, and the Kremlin is being asked to agree to a 30-day ceasefire that Kyiv has already told the Americans it will sign up to. Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, said that he hoped Russia would accept a peace agreement so we can get to the second phase of this, which is real negotiations that may leave plenty of room for interpretation. Russia has also been pushing for a ceasefire, though. The Kremlin had wanted that to be followed by elections in Ukraine before any full negotiation about territory and the future security of Kyiv. Ukraine, meanwhile, will want strong security guarantees to avoid a resumption of the war involving European peacekeepers on the ground, which Russia has so far said it is against. An open question perhaps is whether peacekeepers could enter Ukraine during a ceasefire period until the Tuesday, March 11, 2025 discussions between U.S. and Ukrainian delegations bore fruit. The battlefield dynamics did not appear to favor a ceasefire. The Ukraine decision to launch a drone attack into Russia on Monday night was a clear demonstration that its military capacity had not yet been significantly dented by the pause in supply of U.S. military intelligence. It was also an aggressive effort to put pressure on Moscow to agree a peace. The Russian Defense Ministry said Ukraine had attacked with 337 drones, 91 of which were aimed at Moscow. 3 people were reported to have been killed. All 4 of the Moscow airports had to be closed, and local air defenses were not entirely effective in repelling the assault. The Moscow regional governor said that 2 people had been killed at a car park near a meat processing plant in Domodedovo, 5 miles from an airport. Later, it was reported that a 3rd man had died. Striking at civilian targets is never attractive, though the images were not dissimilar to those of Ukrainian cities hit nightly by Russian bombing over the past 3 years. Russia has also been increasing the scale of its drone attacks recently. On Monday, Russia launched 126 Shahid drones, as well as other decoy drones into Ukraine alongside a ballistic missile. Fighting on the front line has favored Russia for some time, but not dramatically or decisively. So on Thursday, March 6, 2025, last week, a day after the U.S. confirmed its decision to halt the flow of intelligence, Russia launched an effort with the help of North Korean troops to recapture the remainder of the Kursk area held by Ukraine that has forced the defenders back by between 4 and 8 miles, 65 kilometers and 13 kilometers, and into the outskirts of Sudzha, a village that Ukraine has occupied since August 2024. But the Russian success may only be a function of a concerted attack rather than a beginnings of a rout caused by the temporary absence of targeting data that means Russian progress in the Kursk sector, for example, is likely to continue if no ceasefire is agreed. Nevertheless, the diplomatic momentum is suddenly with Ukraine, though, with the mercurial Trump involved. It is unclear for how long. Around $1 billion, 772 million pounds of U.S. military aid is now potentially unblocked, while key functions for totemic weapons such as F-16s are presumably being restored, and the Kremlin immediate hopes of grinding down Kyiv on the front line are set back. 4B Ukraine aid from the U.S. Reinstated soldiers of the Ukraine 5th Brigade hold a poster thanking the U.S. for its support at the front line near Toretsk Donetsk region on Tuesday. RAWSEP View Ukraine has had U.S. support reinstated ahead of negotiations with Russia. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, March 12, 2025, U.S. aid deliveries to Ukraine back to previous levels. Polish Foreign Minister confirms. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski has just confirmed that U.S. aid deliveries to Ukraine coming through the Polish logistics hub in Rzeszów have returned to previous levels seen before the brief pause. Sikorski spoke at a press conference alongside his Ukrainian counterpart Andriy Sybiha, who stopped in Poland on his way back from Jeddah. Sybiha, speaking in Polish, said that Ukraine was the country that wants to end this war and achieve a just, lasting peace. The most, he added that Ukraine was ready to form a negotiating team to work on a roadmap to reach ceasefire with Russia. Last night, U.S. and Ukraine leaders agreed on resuming the aid deliveries and intelligence sharing as part of a broader peace, in a cheeky comment just days after he publicly clashed with U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio and Trump aide Elon Musk over the technology. Sikorski also added that Starlinks are also still working. The Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, calls for respect between allies after the U.S.-Poland spat over Starlink satellites. 5. Russia and the United States A pact between 2 men is emerging. A Trump Putin pact is emerging, and Europe is its target. The U.S. betrayal of Ukraine is the rehearsal for a grander bargain with Moscow and an assault on continental solidarity in Europe. RAWSEP View This is an opinion piece below, but RAWSEP believes the depiction of the personal motivations of Trump may be accurate. It is hard for RAWSEP to believe that the majority of Americans share those Trumpian types of motivations. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, March 12, 2025, during a Russian primetime current affairs program, a discussion is held about the Trump handling of the war in Ukraine. He is doing excellent things, says a firebrand politician on the panel, before listing White House actions that have belittled Volodymyr Zelensky and weakened his battlefield position. Military aid suspended. Satellite communications, obstructed intelligence, withheld. Do we support this? It is a rhetorical question. We support it all, absolutely. The celebrity host responds, we are thrilled by everything Trump is doing. The anchor of the show is one of the most dependable propagandists for Putin on the Russian state-controlled Channel 1. This being a Kremlin script, the enthusiasm was soon leavened with suspicion. For now, the pressure on Kyiv is great. The show anchor continued, but what will the Americans want in return? It is a good question, although that does not mean there is an answer. It is a mistake to project coherence onto the erratic moves of an overgrown toddler tyrant. Illusory patterns might be traced in the chaos the way faces can be found in drifting clouds if you stare hard enough. But Trump does have predictable taste and grudges. Trump loves money and status. Trump hates obstacles to the acquisition of those things. Trump is well disposed to Russia, seeing it as the kind of place where good deals can be done. Trump is hostile to the upkeep of Ukrainian independence, which he sees as a bad use of U.S. treasure wheedled out of Joe Biden. Trump views Biden with withering disdain. Trump has deep dislike for Zelensky, who Trump views as crafty. These petty prejudices are strongly enough held to sway U.S. foreign policy in a Kremlin-friendly direction without the additional requirement of a strategy. There is plenty for Putin to work with. For both Putin and Trump, the idea of pooling sovereignty among democratic nations such as European nations for mutual economic advantage is incomprehensible. To negotiate as equals with the EU, a flimsy paper entity, without any tank divisions to call its own, is absurd and abhorrent. The Trump and Putin answer to soft power is to confront it with the hard stuff, connive in its dismemberment, and share the spoils. This is the subtext of negotiations to end the war that Putin started and that Trump wants to end without regard for justice. They are rehearsing a shared agenda through the proxy of partitioning Ukraine, exploring the scope of a partnership that has a deeper foundation than the former allies of the US. The Europeans want to admit victory for Putin and Trump together might not come to fruition. Trump is easily distracted, but also easily bought, and Russia has put a predatory joint venture on the table. Europe is the prey. One introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the eco-design wood stove, and international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.